The suggestion that I am not the top martial artist is absurd. When I was young, I used to do flips and cartwheels, 6, 7 years old. I moved on to playing basketball for about 7 hours a day. And when I was around 14, I switched to martial arts. The past 20 years, I've been doing martial arts, researching martial artists, doing different styles. And typically, the average person who does martial arts is a white person who is not as athletically gifted as I am. I went from being the most valuable player as a basketball player to the most valuable martial artist in America, the top martial artist. So the suggestion that someone is better than me is absurd. It doesn't matter how much a geeky white guy trains. Even if they train twice as much as me, which I assure you they don't, they're just not going to be able to compete. I'm faster, I'm more agile, I'm physically superior to them, mentally superior, and my tactics are superior because of my exposure and experience with the martial arts. And then there's the factor, and many of you don't understand, that I don't truly understand myself, but I know it is there. The God factor. Having a relationship with God has given me the edge when I already had very much of a competitive edge. A lot of the same stances you do on the basketball court are similar, at least to the stances we do in martial arts. So, why am I the best? Because simply all those guys you see doing those cute little moves where they grab people's hands and they do wrist locks and they do arm locks and they twist people's arms and so on, and they're not going to be able to do that in the first place. Can you honestly imagine one of those slow, goofy motherfuckers, being able to grab that? That's what's going to happen. So, right? And then, I come in, boom, boom. They're not going to be able to do it. So to me, it's painfully obvious that I'm the top martial artist. And you can tell who's a troll and who lacks insight by who denies that. To say that I'm not the top martial artist is akin to saying that some geeky white computer nerd, is really the strongest man in the world, and Tookie was really a weakling. Now we know white people use drugs. Schwarzenegger, I believe, even admitted using drugs. And sometimes they still come up short. We saw it on the news with the Russian Olympics teams, athletes, and so on. We've seen it how they marginalized Tookie because of the circumstances of white society. It screened Tookie out from competition because he's oppressed and more likely to turn to drugs as a result. Not to mention a ton of other social factors that specifically have to do with being black. Same thing with John Jones in the UFC. Because of a lot of social factors, he's more likely to turn. The social factors that have to do with being black, he's more likely to turn to drugs. Now, without further ado, I'm going to give you this Mason's wife interview and see us explore deeper concepts about spirituality and what we think is behind it. Thank you. So for those of you who might think the cyber attacks are in my head, I've proven so much stuff. I've proven the stalking, I've proven the trolling, the threats and provoking me, and on and on. I have people admitting that they were totally provoking, but I want to make this very, very short because obviously they're giving me a hard time uploading it, and how long the video is has something to do with it. So anyway, look at all this, okay? These are all attempts to upload, and some of them flat out say they failed, okay? And it goes on and on, all the way to here. Okay, I've been doing this all, since like 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to upload videos. Thank you.
Who do you think is ultimately behind this, and why?
You're asking my opinion?
Yep.
Honest opinion?
Yep.
It's different, right? All of us targeted individuals live in different reality worlds, so to speak. So my idea of what's happening to me is not the same as everybody else. We're in different realities. What I believe to be true, it's the government, right? I believe that it's the government, but I also believe that the government are the fallen ones. And majority of them, if they're not the fallen one, they're being controlled by the fallen ones. I believe that it's our government and they're demonically possessed.
All right. What do you think Freemasonry's role is in this?
The Freemasons?
Yes.
You said, what do I think?
Is Masonry's role in this?
Oh, their role. They are the soldiers for the fallen ones. The Freemasons practice dark rituals. If you follow them, dark magic, occult knowledge that they practice. In order for them to I believe the agenda is depopulation and to not wake up the world, to keep the world asleep is the Freemasons' agenda. And because targeted individuals have waken up to the truth and want to spread the word, it's the Freemasons' job to shut us up. It's their job to shut us up. I believe they're the foot soldiers for the fallen angels.
Do you think it's wrong for some people to want to go to war with these people?
No, I don't think it's wrong, but it seems like you would be, or anyone in general would be barking up the wrong tree, so to speak. You cannot fight these individuals on a one-on-one basis. It won't work. These individuals are practicing dark magic. They're practicing not all witches are bad, but they're practicing dark witchcraft, conjuring up dark evil spirits. So if a person like you or I was to do them on our own, like face to face, that's not going to work.
No. What made you come to the conclusion? What made you come to the conclusion that these people are doing real witchcraft, real magic, instead of just thinking that they are?
What made me come to the conclusion that they're doing witchcraft, dark witchcraft?
That it's real and that it's not just in their head.
Okay, I got the part that it's real. And what's the last part?
That it's not just in their head.
Oh, man. It's not.
What makes you think that it is real and it's not just in their head?
In their head? Huh. From personal experience, I know it's real. And that's my experience. So I've experienced a lot of dark magic. I experienced a lot of dark witchcraft, dark occult-ish things taking place, supernatural. I don't believe the Freemasons are very demonic, powerful beings or entities, if you will. The stuff that they practice is not in their head. They wouldn't be successful in creating this hellhole on earth if it was just in their head. They're successful at what they do And if it was made up or believed, they wouldn't be as powerful as they are in a negative sense.
Well, I mean, another way to look at it, again, I respect your beliefs, but another way to look at it is what they believe has made them ruthless and shrewd businessmen, and that has allowed them to rise to the top in a dog-eat-dog world.
What do you think has made them rise into power and be ruthless? How do you think they were able to rise into power and become ruthless? How do you think that came about?
Well, I think that people were disillusioned with the church, especially the Catholic Church, and with the rise of Protestantism in the 1500s, Freemasonry got a lot of recruits. A lot of homosexuals were persecuted by the church, a lot of pagans, a lot of women who felt that they were marginalized, and they had early feminist perspectives. I think everybody who was persecuted by the church got together and they became as adverse to Christianity as possible. But I don't necessarily believe that they do real magic. I believe that they want people to believe that, and they want to torment the people they hate the most, who historically persecuted them and their families for a good reason.
Okay.
But yes, I just wanted to add my little 2 cents in there, and but I mean,
yeah. No, because guess what? 25% of targeted individuals understand what I'm saying, and maybe 75% of targeted individuals understand what you're saying. So we all have different perspectives on what's going on, and it's okay. We're all just trying to figure this all out. I love to hear everybody's different what's going on, because when we share this information, we get closer and closer to finding out the truth.
I do believe that there is demonic entities and spirits that influence people. I just don't believe that these people are actually good at doing magic. I think they're more pawns of demonic entities that they're not able to connect to, but these entities are using them, and they're using their temptations and their hatred and their greed against them. But I don't believe that these people actually do magic. I pretty much see it like you do, except for when it comes to them actually being able to have spiritual power. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I will just tell you this tidbit. During the time that I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, I lived there for about maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. The time was just different for me. So 2 to 3 years, I was surrounded and befriended all Eastern Stars, and my husband was a Freemason. So that's where my knowledge comes from. But at the same time, different strokes for different folks, but that's where my knowledge comes from. My knowledge comes from Freemason and having so-called best friends as Eastern Stars.
Oh, one last question. You know how you were talking about they're putting stuff in the drinks? What do you think of bottled water? Nestle bottled water.
Bottled water. If you want to be careful with bottled water, because the plastic, the chemicals that leak from the plastic bottles can go into the water. But if that's your only source of healthy water, that's fine. It's better than tap water. Tap water is horrific. It calcifies our pineal gland. It's fluoride. It has fluoride in it. You're not supposed to drink fluoride. It makes you docile, and it does a whole bunch of other stuff to you. But if that's the only thing that you have to drink, then that's good. But typically, we want to try and stay away from bottled water.
Okay, yeah.
But for right now, that's good. That you're not drinking tap water.
All right, I'm gonna end the interview right now. I got a lot of stuff. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to add?
Oh, I say for everyone, the body is your temple, and if you're a targeted individual, take care of your body. Detox. Heal yourself of those parasites, because I know that parasites control you. And if you're in a lower vibration and a lower frequency, these low demonic beings are able to attack you more. But when you get rid of those things, you'll see your life change. Eat organic and don't eat out at restaurants, because they are poisoning you. Organic as much as you can. And that's it.
All right, thank you.
Many of you question why I released the controversial video that I said was not a threat. And it wasn't. The purpose of it was to show law enforcement, intelligence agencies, and the other groups involved with gang stalking how the drug makes me feel and how it makes me want to target them and not random innocent people. I will not flip out in my house as they want me to. I will take great care to target my enemies. And using the same principles that have made me the top martial artist in America, strategy, speed, and deadly physical contact especially, it would be very easy for me to get to them or to anyone else I deemed necessary. So also I'd like to bring up that some of you think that, well, what about that video where I'm wearing the brown coat? You know, some people would use that as an example that, oh, maybe these drugs are helping you. Keep in mind that even in the video I mentioned that I'm going way out of my way to act a certain way. Right now it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and their gassing wasn't as hard as it is usually. But to make a long story short, there is not a significant amount of drugs in my system right now. I'm very angry. You cannot tell by one's behavior how they feel. I probably would be yelling if it wasn't 3:30 in the morning. So therefore, only I truly know what is best for me, as you can imagine. For example, you probably wouldn't know that I was going to do that. Only I do. And that I have the aggression inside of me to do that. Or perhaps it... So you tell me, what is the difference between Nelson Mandela fighting apartheid, coming to the conclusion that the destruction of morality was one of the major threats to society, and that there exists legislation that curtails any attempt for blacks to educate themselves or to develop skills and advance their skills in the work they already do in a way that allows them to increase their salary. There is very little difference. The complexities are the only difference. The subtleties are the only difference. But to those of us who are insightful enough to know what to look for, it is basically the same. Now you tell me how drugs that make me want to lash out violently and are helping me. And keep in mind, right now I have a clean criminal record. Only time I really ran afoul with the law, was when I got angry and yelled. And that was much long after, at least 6 years after I first began psychiatric medications and going on and off them. There is no history of violence. When you have somebody who is in his mid-30s with no history of violence, you cannot possibly justify to yourself or anyone else, especially people, justify fairly and in a balanced way, saying that this man is a threat to society and that we must detain him as a result. That is utter nonsense. And when he has been telling you time and time again, it is you people who are making me feel angry by persecuting me for my political views, which I expected a certain amount of. But I see that it is disproportionate, the amount of persecution I receive and the amount of persecution that the average person who makes political videos receives. And my persecution is specific to me. These people took great pains. You see on Facebook, the guy who says magically he found me from YouTube, which is damn near impossible with over 1 billion Facebook accounts. You have a guy on YouTube who says magically he recognizes me from Date Hookup, which is almost as unlikely, especially since I did not reference the channel on Date Hookup. So then now what could possibly be their justification other than harm? They think they know what's best for me. That is like me telling you, I know what makes you happy. Just do it my way. What's to stop a rapist from saying that to his rape victim? Look, baby, it's going to make you feel good. Just damn it, it's going to make you feel good. It's the same thing. It has to do with the body. It has to do with sexuality, okay? Because there's sexual side effects. It has to do with, your sexual organs and sexual processes. And it has to do with forcing somebody to do it your way because you think it is best for them and you get some kind of kick out of it. It's pretty much the same as rape. In fact, that book, Psychiatric Rape, the title can be taken two ways. One, a psychiatrist drug and rape people. Another one is that it feels like rape to be covertly drugged or to be force medicated. You feel violated. Your rights are violated. Your body is violated. Your mind is violated, and the emotional distress that follows. So how can causing me respiratory damage, messing with my blood sugar, my heart rate, potentially causing heart disease and liver damage, uncontrolled muscle movement, stiff muscles, headaches, blurred vision, and a whole laundry list, which I've gone over, pages and pages of side effects. How could that possibly be in my best interest? Especially when you look at exactly what I do. Okay, I'm supposed to be a programmer, and these drugs keep me from programming. And as a result, I do martial arts, and I work for my parents' medical company. Okay? And these drugs don't help me do any of those. They hinder my progress. They do not help me make speeches. They mess up my speech patterns. They cause memory loss. Remember that one video when I was making the speech about, and it came up, it was the same video I referred to earlier in this video about, it says not a threat, and I talk about the pigs and so on and so forth. And what is fair play to do to them, and how to react accordingly to war, and everything I said is absolutely correct, okay, without being a threat. It was all hypothetical situations, and in the case of that situation, this is correct, and so on and so forth. But I could not even remember what I know very well, that the First Amendment is the freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion. The Fourth Amendment is freedom from unreasonable search and seizures and having a fair trial. They have violated both, so it's fitting I brought up the fourth as well. Because when they take me in and detain me for 2 weeks, which is more than the 48-hour period they're allowed to detain someone without charging them, I haven't been given a fair trial. It's a kangaroo court. And if you think that, not having a trial of my peers, I demand that a trial of my peers who see it the same way as me. I want a trial from the people in my videos who know that psychiatry is a fraud, who know that gang stalking is real. Why can't they, why can't Dr. John Hall and people who think like him be the ones who determine whether I belong in the psych ward? Why does it have to be my oppressors? Why does it have to be people who work for the system, the same system that is oppressing me? One Klansman, for example, it will be as if one Klansman takes you into the hospital, another Klansman is the psychiatrist, a bunch of other Klansmen are the staff, and then a Klansman is the judge, or whatever you want to call the person who proceeds over the mental health proceedings, which takes more than 2 days to get to. And another Klansman is your, patient's rights advocate. You call that a fair trial? That is a kangaroo circus. Not even just a circus, a kangaroo circus. Bearded lady feminists and all. Big muscle men, to hold you down. It's a circus. Occult rituals. They make money. It is a fucking circus. Gypsy fortune tellers and mind readers, because shrinks don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So you're reading my mind and you know what is best for me, and you know what medicines are magically going to help me, especially in the long term in my life. It's a fucking circus. It's a fucking joke. So you tell me. And if you noticed, even if you were to argue that one video with the brown suit coat, the brown coat, that magically I was better in that video, well, what happened at the end? As soon as I brought up something that made me angry, I started doing these things. Okay, I started doing my moves again. So if you see that as a sign of mental illness, which is absolutely absurd, then Bruce Lee was mentally ill. Chuck Norris, Steven Seagal, Wesley Snipes, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, Donnie Yen, all mentally ill. Bruce Lee had a punching bag in his car so he could hit it, on the road. So he's mentally ill. Bruce Lee's mentally ill. He's obsessed with martial arts. A preacher is obsessed with preaching. Doesn't necessarily get paid for it. A monk, but of course they would love to say that anyway, because they want to drug a Christian fundamentalist and Muslim fundamentalist. Just the other day, and I should have taken a screenshot, a troll said to me that I believe that you're mentally ill, and it causes you to believe that psychiatry is a fraud and to want to be a fundamentalist Muslim. I mean, isn't that such a joke, how these people think that they know what's going on? First of all, I was converting to Islam. I'm not converting to Islam anymore. And that was a comment on one of my recent videos, much long after I've announced that, I'm not converting to Islam anymore. And one of my recent videos, I was wearing a cross. You see how they miss the obvious signs. They think they know what's going on, and they're hiding behind mental health, which drugs people in a way that upholds white social norms. So yes, mental health, doesn't know what they're talking about. They kill people, they target kids, they cause people permanent neurological damage, they lie about the damage electroshock therapy causes, they lie about clinical trials, they fabricate, they falsify, all these things. But they also do so in order to uphold white social norms, which have always been designed by the ruling class to uphold and to maintain the ruling class families and their privilege and control. So when you have, I'm going to end it with this because I didn't want to make it this long. When you have these philosophies of the spiritual bottom feeders being promoted by the ruling class, the CEO of Apple coming out, all these rich, influential, powerful celebrity type people coming out as gay, the media applauding them, CNN having a bunch of gay anchors, Anderson Cooper, that light-skinned black guy, I'm sure some of the female anchors are lesbian or feminist as well, and so on. MSNBC, the media is disproportionately liberal, and they uphold gay rights, and there's certain agendas that are designed by the elite. Then there are historical oppositions that they had to address by controlling them, such as the Black Civil Rights Movement, the Civil Rights Movement in general. They want to control it, and they mix it with feminism. They attach feminism and homosexuality to quote-unquote civil rights when they were never attached. This is a recent phenomenon. The feminist movement was always separate from civil rights movement. The gay rights movement was damn near non-existent, but they've attached them to the Black civil rights movement, a legitimate movement. And now we have a bunch of secret society people in charge of the Black civil rights movement, and we have feminism and homosexuality attached. Okay? That's the only reason you see the Black movement in the news. And they also use it to try to bring in security measures by getting the usual suspects, black people to act up and to lash out. That's how it is. So I'm going to end this by saying this yet again, because it's very important that you understand. And these groups of people don't appreciate it, but fuck them. Satanism, criminality, promoting gangsterism, you know, Crips and Bloods and Hispanic gangsters and Puerto Rican gangsters, Chicago gangsters, you know, drug cartels and mafia and criminality, you know, that as a philosophy, because it is a philosophy that's promoted. You know, there's gangbanging has been described by some LA gang members as their religion. It is a philosophy. So Satanism, criminality, LGBT, feminism, atheism, and racism are all philosophies that are injected into the population, into the masses by the elite. And they go out of their way to make sure that these things have more than just a significant presence, but a profound and wicked, detrimental effect on politics. Thank you. Thank you. We saw on the news with the Russian Olympics teams, athletes, and so on. We've seen it how they marginalized Tookie. Because of the circumstances of white society, it screened Tookie out from competition because he's oppressed and more likely to turn to drugs as a result. Not to mention a ton of other social factors that specifically have to do with being black. Same thing with John Jones in the UFC. You know, because of a lot of social factors, he's more likely to turn. The social factors that have to do with being black, he's more likely to turn to drugs. Now, without further ado, I'm going to give you this Mason's wife interview and see us explore deeper concepts about spirituality and what we think is behind it. Thank you. So for those of you who might think the suggestion that I am not the top martial artist is absurd. When I was young, I used to do flips and cartwheels, 6, 7 years old. I moved on to playing basketball for about 7 hours a day. And when I was around 14, I switched to martial arts. The past 20 years, I've been doing martial arts, researching martial artists, doing different styles. And typically, the average person who does martial arts is a white person who is not as athletically gifted as I am. I went from being the most valuable player as a basketball player to the most valuable martial artist in America, the top martial artist. So the suggestion that someone is better than me is absurd. It doesn't matter how much a geeky white guy trains, even if they train twice as much as me, which I assure you they don't, they're just not going to be able to compete. I'm faster, I'm more agile, I'm physically superior to them, mentally superior, and my tactics are superior because of my exposure and experience with the martial arts. And then there's the factor, and many of you don't understand that I don't truly understand myself, but I know it is there, the God factor. Having a relationship with God has given me the edge when I already had very much of a competitive edge. A lot of the same stances you do on the basketball court are similar, you know, at least to the stances we do in martial arts. So, why am I the best? Because simply all those guys you see doing those cute little moves where they grab people's hands and they do wrist locks and they do arm locks and they twist people's arms and so on, and, you know, they're not going to be able to do that in the first place. You know, can you honestly imagine one of those slow, goofy motherfuckers? The cyber attacks are in my head. I've proven so much stuff, you know. I've proven the stalking, I've proven the trolling, the threats and provoking me, and, you know, on and on. You know, I have people admitting that they were totally provoking, but I want to make this very, very short because obviously they're giving me a hard time uploading it, and how long the video is has something to do with it. So anyway, look at all this, okay? These are all attempts to upload, and some of them flat out say they failed, okay? And it goes on and on, all the way to here. Okay, this is, I've been doing this all, you know, since like 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to upload videos. Thank you.
Who do you think is ultimately behind this, and why?
You're asking my opinion?
Yep.
Honest opinion?
Yep.
It's different, right? All of us targeted individuals live in different realities.
Because, you know, being able to grab that, you know, that's what's going to happen. So, right? And then, I come in, boom, boom. They're not gonna be able to do it. So to me, it's painfully obvious that I'm the top martial artist. And you can tell who's a troll and who lacks insight by who denies that. To say that I'm not the top martial artist is akin to saying that some geeky white computer nerd, is really the strongest man in the world, and Tookie was really a weakling. Now we know white people use drugs. Schwarzenegger, I believe, even admitted using drugs. And sometimes they still come up short.